What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Harry Potter Quidditch Champions and talk about how long I think the game is going to last, going to survive, what it's going to take for this game to last kind of long term. I like making these videos, at least for some of these more live servicey, and I don't even know if I would call Quidditch it, but, games that are meant to be around for a long time, right? Now, actually, I don't play many of those games, so it's kind of rare when I make a video like this, and I normally do it for a game that I do enjoy that fits that criteria, where it's like, yeah, I want this game to last as long as possible. So I want that to be known, no matter what I say in this video, just so you know in the first, 30, 40 seconds, I'm coming at this as a fan. I'm coming at this as I want this game to last for as long as it can. But ultimately, it's really up to them. It's up to Unbroken Studios. Do they want the game to last 2 months? Do they want the game to last a year? How many seasons do they got planned? How many updates do they got planned? That's all on them. And we're just kind of along for the ride, whether we bought it or didn't buy it. And okay, well, now let's look. How's the game actually doing? Now, we only have one side of things, right? We only have Steam. And Steam Database, I think, is a great tool. And, it shows, obviously, how many people are playing right now, playing, in the last 24 hours, and as a peak. So, when I'm recording this, it's at 2650, which is not, I would say, all that bad. The 24-hour peak is about 3,700, and the all-time peak is 6,500 players, okay? Now, obviously, the game comes out middle of the week. It's tough to know for sure, if it's going to beat that all-time peak on this weekend, right? Because you still got the weekend. You got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And normally, games like this, when you look at the Helldivers of the world or Elden Rings, they tend to peak the Friday and Saturday nights. Those are maybe even Saturday during the day. Those are the big times that's when you're going to get the all-time peak. You don't get the all-time peak on a random Tuesday, right? I'd say even a Black Myth or something like that. So that's just something to kind of throw out. That is it possible it beats 6,500? Yes, but I think that's probably the highest it's going to get concurrently just on Steam. Now, it's not fair, I would say, to just talk about Steam. The issue is you don't really know on the other side, right? So you have it on console, and you also have it through PS Plus, which I think is a really big benefit. And the issue is we don't really know how well it's doing on those, right? I mean, I guess you can look at where it's at in the charts of pre-orders and things like that. And I don't know. I think another thing you got to think of is over the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a lot of games that kind of immediately dethrone it. Astrobot should be, or already is, probably number one, across the board, right? But you got Space Marine 2, which is gigantic, and that's next Tuesday. And then, you got the Epic Mickeys of the world or Lollipop Chainsaws. Does that make, a mark on some of these games? Again, bottom line is you don't really know all the way. And, it's why I wanted to throw it in here, in the beginning of the video, but didn't want to spend too long on it because, we don't know for sure how many people are playing. I would wager a guess that it's about 50-50, that if you look at Steam and then you look at all of the consoles combined, that I think the game is probably 50% on Steam, 50% on console. So I'm willing to guess that there's roughly, 5,500 to 6,000 people playing it right now. The all-time peak was maybe in the 10 to 15,000 range instead of 6,500, right? I'm willing to go there, but I don't have those numbers. We'll get those numbers. We'll know how it charts probably next month, right? Late next month. We'll see how it does. So, okay, kind of want to leave that part there. Now, how long can it survive? Well, one thing that I mentioned in my review that I do want to bring up, and it does concern me, it really does, because I've been playing every night and playing as much as I possibly can, and I think the leveling system is kind of hurting me and the friend group that I'm playing with because we're very high level. We're in the mid-30s to high 40 range. That's our level cap. And I noticed, the first day, again, I talked about this in my review, first day, the wait times would be kind of too long, longer than you would want a game on the first day of its launch, right? Okay, well, day 2, yesterday when I was playing it last night, I had an even bigger issue. The wait times were going to about 1 to 2 minutes. They could stretch to almost 2 minutes that we were sitting there waiting. And when we would find a group, it would sometimes, actually I think 3 or 4 different matches, we faced 1 to 2 people. We couldn't even find full groups of 3. Now, sometimes a person would kind of join mid-game, but sometimes we would literally face one person the whole match. Sometimes we would face, and I think it happened 3 different times, we'd face 2 people the entire match, and we had our group of 3. So that does concern me because now you got long wait times that I noticed the first day, noticed the second day, and now you also have, you can't even fully get 6 people every single time. So that's something that's a little bit concerning to me. So that is a little concerning to me. And I guess, by the way, the reason I'm talking about all of this, as I've previously mentioned, I think the main strength of this game is the gameplay, the competitive kind of feel. That's not 100% there, as I talked about in my review, but that's the strength. And I know some people are really enjoying career mode, and that's fantastic. I think the long-term, the literal longevity of this game is in the multiplayer. It's not in the single-player stuff. And that's okay if you disagree, but that's just my opinion of it. So, okay, how long do I think the game will be around for? So, I think the next couple of weeks are really like a make-or-break situation because, like, while I'm very excited for 6v6, and I think there are thousands, like plural, thousands of players that are excited for 6v6. I feel like I've seen them, on social media. I think a lot of those people have actually purchased the game or have the game through PS Plus. Like, I believe that. I think 6v6 is wanted, and I think people will actually play it. But I don't think it's going to necessarily save the game. It's an interesting thing. I probably should have mentioned that, when we were kind of complaining about it a few weeks ago, where it's like, I don't know, I think the numbers it's doing right now is kind of what you got. And I don't think doubling the amount of people on each team is going to like add a couple thousand players. I just really don't believe that. And then you got, like the seasons and like the Yule Ball and things like. Now, I'm really excited for this. Honestly, like I like their roadmap. We talked about their roadmap, when they revealed it a little while ago. I think it's cool. I'm very excited for like themed things. Like I want to see Halloween decorations. I want to see Christmas stuff. Like I'm pumped. I'm legitimately excited. But again, like, is that something that's really going to get people to play? I guess I'm going long-winded. To really nail it down, I really feel like this game is what it is, and it's got the players it has, and it's only going to go down from here. I mean, that would be I guess you could look at that pessimistically, if you want to, but that's kind of where I'm at with it, because, at its core, like, it's a Quidditch game. Just like, okay, if you're waiting on something for Madden, well, you're not waiting for Madden to suddenly add a new sport to it, right? You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It's football. You can only also change the game of football so much. You can't reinvent the freaking sport. Does that make sense? So, like, for Quidditch Champions, they can't add another, and it's an interesting idea, right? Like, could you add more modes and stuff? It's like, well, what are they really supposed to add? Like, you could maybe add like time trials and like, ghost type stuff. You could do that, but like the game itself is playing Quidditch. You can't really change how to play Quidditch. I mean, yes, I guess they already kind of changed it a little bit, right? But you're not going to fundamentally reinvent it. It's not suddenly going to become lacrosse, right? Like, it is what it is. You can only add, like, the maps are cool, and you can keep adding maps, but again, like, is that going to get more players? The answer is no. I'll say it. I'll be the one to raise my hand. The answer is no. So ultimately, I think the game just is what it is, and, again, this goes back to the first point I said. Ultimately, I'm happy with the game. I'm having fun. I have a group that's willing, to do like a 3v3 thing, a 6v6 thing. I think we're going to do good there. But I know not everybody has that. And ultimately, again, the next couple of weeks to me is really going to be like showing. I'll be keeping an eye on like the Steam numbers and stuff. But like I said, like when you go over to consoles and stuff, you have a lot of competing games that, although it's not in the same genre, it's just more games that are out. Even PS Plus, like that should give it a leg up. But ultimately, there's other PS Plus games. There's other big games coming out in general. And people also move around, by the way, and people leave games, right? Like, that's the thing to remember. Like, people playing the game now most likely won't be playing it in a few months from now. That's just like how the stats actually work. So, from like literally a selfish point of view, I just want there to be matches. I want there to be people online so I can face off against them, right? Like, that's the biggest thing for me. I don't, in terms of like their pocketbooks, I'm not necessarily watching it. I don't care if it lasts 5 months versus 6 versus 4.5. It doesn't really matter to me. I just want, as I'm playing it, I of course want matches to exist and stuff. But no, again, as I keep saying, I do think the game is good. I want the game to succeed. It's just, it's an interesting conversation where it kind of is what it is, and you do need to keep updating it. There's a lot of bugs that I'm noticing, as the days go on. They really got to polish up this game in the next couple of weeks, and you'll do your themes and your events and all that stuff, and that'll be great. But you're obviously, the odds of attracting more players is not very high. Like, the odds of doing that, I don't think it's really going to happen. But in terms of, I guess I never actually said it, so let me say it at the end of the video here. in terms of like how long do I actually think this game has, I bet you a good like 6 to 8 months. I feel like they can get 2-3 seasons out of this thing, and I think that's pretty good. I mean, it's not great. You've seen games that last for 2, 3, 4 years. You've seen games last for like a month. You see Concord lasting for 11 days. So like I think they'll beat that. I think they'll beat a couple months, but I think that's kind of reasonable. If a game makes it like close to a year, if not a year, I think that's pretty okay in the current landscape of things, right? Like most games just can't do it for longer. The games that last 5 to 10 years are the ones you know of. Then there are thousands of games that you've never heard of that don't even make it a year, don't even make it 6 months, right? The games that make it 5, 10 years, the Rocket Leagues and the Dead by Daylights and Fortnite and PUBG and all that stuff, you know those games. You don't know the thousands that died 2 weeks in, right? So I think to make it a year is pretty good. I think that's acceptable. I think they can do the stuff that they want to do with updating it. I think we can have our fun and like literally play the game. I think all of that stuff would work out, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.